May I now call on Dr. Juzhong Zhuang.
Difficult.
You can just.
Thank you very much, and I would like to thank AIM for inviting me to, and my colleague Karina, she's sitting there, to join this forum. And we are very happy here, to be here, especially this is an ADB and AIM Knowledge Hub activity. And also I'm very happy to see several of my former ADB colleagues sitting in the audience. Okay, so I think I will, basically, I think I will go through, provide some kind of regional perspective on capital flows and exchange rates and inflation trend. This chart shows that a combination of factors are causing the short-term capital flows to increase to Asia. Now, you can see the solid block. This is for the first half of this year. Net capital inflow to Asia, developing Asia, I mean, is 112 billion US dollars. This is more than double the amount we observed the same period the last year, is 2009. It was 54.2 billion US dollars. But of course, I understand that Frank mentioned about this capital flow data and notorious difficult to get accurate estimates. But this is, I think, is data from SEIC data stream. That number, the doubling, basically, the net flows was driven mainly by portfolio equity investment flows. But at the same time, the FDI flows also very steadily for this period of time. Then this chart shows that to a large extent, or to some extent, this increasing capital flows has led to an appreciation of Asian currencies, many Asian currencies against the US dollar in recent period. Here, the last column, we show the numbers. There's a percentage change, percentage appreciation in nominal term from September 2008 to October 2010, this year. The appreciation ranged from about 30% for Japanese yen, and then the Thai baht is about 11%. Malaysia, Thai baht is 14.5%. Malaysian ringgit is about 11%. So I think the Philippine peso is 7.8%. This is from September 2008 to October 2010. And the only in the chart, the only currency depreciated is Vietnamese dong, depreciated by about 15%. As I said, this is in nominal term. And of course, the inflows create excess liquidity and causing inflation to rise in many Asian economies after the global financial crisis. I think the inflation rate increase was most pronounced in India for the first months, about 9%, and also the Vietnam about 8%. And China, I think the last month the data released was 4.4% CPI compared to 12 months ago, basically year-on-year inflation rate 4%. So that prompted the central bank to take tightening measures, more tightening measures. And so as I said, central banks in many Asian countries have increased policy rates basically to contain inflationary pressure, as well as other measures, for instance, increasing deposit reserve ratio. So like India, Republic of Korea, China, all increased policy rates, as the chart you can see the latest policy rates trend. And then the question is, how should the region respond? These are the bullet points taken from latest ADO, Asian Development Outlook, we released in September. Basically, as I said, many central banks have already begun to tighten monetary policy, and we argue that at the same time it's important to complement this monetary tightening with macro-prudential measures, for instance, to prevent creation of asset bubbles and to control the asset bubble, especially in property markets, for instance. And also, we should allow the currency flexibility and some degree of, we believe, the currency appreciation will help avert the speculative inflows and the creation of, avoid the creation of asset bubbles. And we think that well-designed, selective, and targeted capital controls can be an effective instrument to regulate the volume as well as the maturity of capital inflows. I mean, if they are good, so we should allow, but more volatile kind of portfolio capital flow. So these are the things we want to control. And then I have a few comments and questions on Frank's presentation. I think it's a very interesting presentation, excellent presentation. And your conclusion that all countries have a role to play in correcting global imbalances makes a lot of sense, and I 100% agree. But I have a question on this, the evidence that China is manipulating its currency is not so clear-cut, because your last few slides you mentioned about, at the beginning you mentioned about China managing exchange rate currency, but the last you mentioned the manipulating. So now I just want to provide a few facts. First is that the yuan and the renminbi has risen by more than 20%, about 24% actually, against the US dollar since 2005. This is in nominal terms. And on a trade-weighted basis, yuan has risen by about 14% over the same period of time. So this is from 2005 up until now. And another factor is that we think that what matters more is the real exchange rate, as my colleague from the central bank here mentioned the real exchange rate. So, I mean, basically we are observing that China's trade surplus declining, but of course we only have the first 10 months. I mean, the data. We have to see whether this trend will continue. Now, my question is actually, when I read the PowerPoint, because it was sent to me earlier, I have a question that are we putting too much emphasis on the exchange rate for the causes of the global imbalances, given that the U.S. current account surplus did not decline when yuan appreciated by more than 20%, about 20% during 2005, 2008 nominally, and an even higher percent in real terms, no? So with yuan appreciated, but we don't see U.S. current account surplus decline. So the point I want to make is that the exchange rate is not a silver bullet, and is only one of the many things that are part of the solutions. But of course, when I hear the presentation Frank gave, so maybe my understanding is not that is the point you're trying to make. But when I look at your PowerPoint, I have that kind of impression. Now, I also agree that the emerging economies should make it extremely flexible and reflect economic fundamentals over time. I think China aware of that and try to do that. But of course, I'm not defending China. I'm from ADB. I'm an economist, no? From that perspective, not from, I'm not a Chinese official, but we think is reflected in ADO that this needs to be done in an orderly manner, and abrupt appreciation over a short period of time, a sharp appreciation can be disruptive and harmful. We know that job losses hurt poor. Inflation hurt poor, but job losses also hurt poor. So we have to say no to, as my colleague put this, no to protectionism, and protectionism is the worst response. And finally, I want to make a point that for Asia, policy coordination on exchange-related issues will benefit all. So I think I'll stop from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zhuang. I guess that gives us quite a bit of room for an interesting exchange of ideas.